Welcome, everybody, to the Aliveness Habit, refreshing conversations with everyday masters of aliveness. And this series is dedicated to exploring the experience of aliveness, what it means to each one of us, and how each one of us comes alive. So I am delighted today to be welcoming a dear friend, a dear coaching colleague. Her name is Laura Lee. And Laura, thank you for being with us today. And Laura is so many things, but above all, she's a mother. She's a wife. She is a beautiful human being. And she's a transformational life coach for women and also host of the Unleash Your Light podcast. So doing beautiful, wonderful work in the world and helping others shine, find their light, and live in vibrance. So delighted to have you here today, Laura. Yeah, we've known each other now for a few years. And, Laura and I kind of have developed this beautiful sort of cadence where we come together and we connect creatively, and we sort of brainstorm on ideas and things, and it's just this wonderful coming together, and which I've so appreciated. And so I would love to kick off our conversation today with just a very simple question of what does aliveness mean to you?
Thank you, Alex. It's so wonderful to be here with you, first of all, and to be talking about aliveness. It's just something that is so potent for me right now,
Mm,
and for so many reasons. But when you were sharing about how we met and what we do together, and you said we create,
yeah.
and you and I, when we are in a container together, we're creating,
Mm,
and that makes me feel alive. And another thing that makes me feel alive is um, to feel. When I thought about that earlier, when you had asked me to be on this podcast with you, I thought, what makes me feel alive is to feel at full capacity,
mm,
at full capacity the without any control or suppression, right? And I thought about that, and so that's what makes me feel alive, I think, is to have that full access to the full range of my feelings, of my emotions, to not shut them down, and to be in creation, to be creating, to be connected to my body, to my people, in intimacy. So these are the things that are coming up for me, not just one, but these are the things that I'm thinking of in the moment, that are just I'm letting flow up and out of me. I'm just thinking, right? That make me feel most alive.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. And I know we've talked a lot about this in the past. It's sort of an anchoring discussion point for us, this place of creation. And
Mhm.
it's so interesting, right? Because creation, I feel, is like it's such a it's such a natural place for us as human beings. I mean, everything is really creation. And yet
Yeah.
it's so hard to access this space, I find sometimes. And, when we come together and we remind each other that this place does exist, and we kind of just unlayer,
Yeah.
sort of, sift through and get back to this place of creation, it is such a beautiful, freeing, spacious space. But I'm so curious, why is it so hard for us to access that place on a regular, ongoing basis?
Yeah. Well, I think, as you were speaking, the reason why I think you and I do that is because we have this flow of energy that's going between us. We're allowing it to happen, and it's flowing between us. And then that's activating this like ideas and life force. And so even though we're having thoughts and we're in our head, we're not stuck in our head. We're not stuck in our thoughts. We're not ruminating on anything. We're actually just going, hey, what about this? What about this? It's like we're connected in ideas, but also we're in that energy of curiosity, what's possible. I
Mm,
think it's so hard, especially when we're doing it on our own. If we're just on our own sometimes and we're just like ruminating and we're in our head, it's that there's so many other things going on as well. So
mm,
many, like, so many parts of our conditioned self and our survival self and our fear and all of these things are the ways that we edit ourselves or suppress our emotions around what we're feeling around the thing that we want to do and we're not doing it.
yeah.
So I think that what's so helpful about being in a container where you're not left to your own, sometimes your own brain and your own mind and your own fear and your own conditioning, is that you get to be invited out of that.
Mm,
And you, in your, when you're with someone who you feel safe and connected
mm,
to do that, you allow it more to flow.
mm,
So all that to say is I think that a lot of times we walk around living in our heads. And the more we can do things that bring more life force into our bodies, then we can feel more alive and get more into the creative mode. When I go for a walk in the woods and I'm moving, not only am I moving my body, I'm moving oxygen through my body. Everything starts moving. Ideas start moving, blood starts moving, oxygen, all of it's moving. So what's in motion allows me to get more to closer and closer to that creative mode, because I think creation isn't static, it's in motion. So
mhm.
it's that kind of, for me, that word flow, we talk about the creative, being in the flow, in the zone.
Yeah.
There's just this absence of trying to control,
Mm,
right? And I think that we try to control a lot.
mhm. Yes, we do.
So, yeah.
Yes, we do, sister. Yes, we do.
We try to control a lot. And so something to be aware of, how much are we trying to control versus um, just letting things flow through us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautifully said. I love how you said the life force into the body, bringing the
Yeah.
life force into the body and, aliveness. What I'm hearing from you and appreciating very much is this idea that aliveness lives in the body,
Hmm.
right? There's a disconnection, I think, that we feel, well, that we experience as humans, where,
Hmm.
as you said, it's like it like we get cut off here and we
Yeah,
live here, and then this is like, well, I don't know.
absolutely.
Sometimes we can. I mean, I've had that experience where I live almost exclusively in my head,
Hmm.
and those are the times when I feel overwhelmed and I feel anxious and I feel, very uh worried all the time, and it can become quite chronic as an experience when we live in our heads for
Absolutely.
too long. um and then we drop back into our bodies, and that's where all of a sudden, we feel that calmness and the slowing down and the spaciousness. And but it's just, it's interesting because we talk about this and it feels so simple. Honestly, we talk about it, it's like, well, okay, it's your body, like, what's the big deal? You just drop into your body. And why is it so hard to access our bodies?
Hmm. Well, for coming from someone who really tried not to be in her body for a large part of my life, I will say that looking back on that, I was doing that to avoid feeling.
uh,
So the emotion or the sensation of the emotion that I was so afraid to feel,
mm,
because I never knew, I never was taught how to manage or feel my emotion. I had beliefs around what emotions I was not supposed to feel.
yeah,
I had, most of us are not taught as children, at least, maybe some of us that are now teaching our children that. Thank God, that we can do that if we're in that awareness. But
yeah,
we're not taught as kids how to, um, that it's okay to feel all the range, mad, sad, all the things. We're taught what those are, I think, in like kindergarten, maybe preschool. And then
mm,
after that, that's pretty much where we stop learning about, well, I feel mad today. Is that all right?
mhm,
Like we don't learn how to work with our nervous system. We feel a certain way in our body and our brain fires together with that. Oh, this is dangerous. I cannot feel this. Oh my gosh, how can I then suppress that
mhm,
emotion so I don't feel that scary feeling I'm feeling?
yeah,
And then of course we're shutting down our life force.
mhm,
So when you think about it, I was thinking about this morning. How many times a day, by the choices I'm making, am I actually subconsciously suppressing my life force? By, let's say, when I eat when I'm not hungry,
Yeah.
what am I doing? Like, am I somehow, or depending on what I'm even putting in my body, am I putting something in my body that increases life force, or am I putting in something into my body that's actually numbing me out?
Hmm.
So when you think about it in those terms, it is simple. It's kind of an interesting experiment to work with in your life, to go, if I were to just sit back and kind of track my day, what activities, what choices am I making that make me feel alive? And which ones am I using to control and not feel?
Hmm.
Because it's too uncomfortable. Because I
Yeah.
don't know what I'm going to do when I feel that thing, or I'm going to have to do something about it to change it if I want to feel differently. And I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's hard. And all of this is usually happening in our subconscious. We don't even know that that's what we're doing. So that's my long answer to your question, I guess. We're always trying to feel or make sure that we're safe instead of learning how to feel uncomfortable, which can feel very unsafe, but also learn how to feel uncomfortable, but then also manage that, take care of ourselves, work with our nervous system, even by just placing a hand on our body and going, it's okay, it's okay. Or reaching out to a friend and going, I feel really, really scared right now. I feel really uncomfortable. I'm feeling really sad. We're not taught how to do that most of the time.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think it is a process of, and we can even get into this, like, even I feel so passionately about learning this as an adult, especially those of us who didn't. It's okay, there's no shame in that. But also so passionately about how can we get this into the minds, hearts, and bodies of our younger generation. And I see that happening. I see it all over the internet. People are talking about trauma, nervous systems, all of these things. And it's, I hope that as we are hearing about it, that it's actually becoming embodied and actually practiced. That is my hope.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. Thank you, Laura. Oh my gosh, so many good things in there. I wish we had more time, but um, I think you land on something really important, and that's the embodied experience.
yeah,
And because we can't, you don't change something by thinking it, you change it by feeling it.
yeah.
And I think you agree with that statement, but it sort of has to be this a felt experience.
Hmm.
Um, and and I think that is something that like you say, we hear about, you see things, and we take them in our heads, and we say, oh yeah, that's great, and this, but the actual experience, the embodied felt experience of aliveness.
Hmm.
um and what would you say is, like, in your experience, is there an emotion, is there one feeling or emotion that we have to really pay attention to the most, that
Mm.
that we run away from the most in your
Yeah.
experience?
Well, one of them, especially for women, is anger.
Mm,
I was talking with a client the other day about this, and anger is an emotion that actually can move you into motion. When it's not projected or directed at someone else, but you just allow yourself to let that feeling of anger, notice when it came in, what triggered that, what activated that. I like activated better than triggered. And if you let it flow through you, usually you will notice that it will move you. It will
mm,
either literally move your physical body up, or it will move you into some kind of action.
mhm,
A lot of the things that make me angry are the things that, when someone else is being harmed, when someone is being harmed by someone and I can see that happening, it makes me angry. If I'm being harmed, chances are if I would have allowed that, I would have gotten angry about that. But now I'm learning how to, right? But I do think that a lot of women and a lot of men, but I see it more in women. We're taught it's not okay. You need to be pleasant. You need to be pleasing. You're here to make sure everybody's okay, that there's no conflict. And actually, that's been such a disservice because that can actually move you into motion. It can show you what you care most about in the entire world and move you towards doing something actively in that direction, which is probably part of your purpose. And so anger to me is such a helpful, I think all emotions are helpful in so many ways. What we don't want to do is feel angry and then go and vomit it onto somebody else. This is your fault. This is all you. That's a different way of expressing anger.
Mm-hmm.
But when we can just feel it, express it, we can be angry at someone else. But if we can fully learn to express it and move it all the way through the body, scream, punch a pillow, get it out of the body, rage. There's ways of moving that out through the body that you can then respond to the person who's making you angry in a totally empowered way and not feel so afraid to let yourself feel angry. So I would say
Mm-hmm.
anger, sadness, grief, all the ones that aren't the happy, quote, happy emotions.
Yeah.
I think we feel less safe to experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's sort of makes me curious about something. So anger, the emotion of anger,
Mm-hmm.
is that, can you feel alive in that emotion? Um,
Absolutely.
and what does that look like? I mean,
Yeah.
as part, because sometimes we have this impression that, aliveness is like we have to be, like filled with the endorphins and we're euphoric and we're just loving life and everything's great. And then we talk about these emotions that, you're bringing to the surface. It's like anger and shame and guilt and all of these, how does this play into the equation of aliveness?
Yeah. Well, when I'm feeling anger, when I think of anger as an emotion, as an energy, I think of a fire being lit. I
Mm,
think of a flame. And so even like if you were to put a flame underneath your hand, you would move, your hand would So I'm thinking of anger to me is a fire. It's a fire that um it almost for me, if I'm even thinking about when I feel angry, it feels almost like it just feels like everything's activated inside of me.
mm,
Everything's activated, it's lit. It's probably going to make me, more often than not, if I'm allowing it to be,
mhm.
I'm going to take an action towards something that's going to, um, if an action someone's doing is making me angry, then how can I mobilize? How can I mobilize to help change that? So for me, it's an agent of change. It's a fire that's lit in us to mobilize us to be agents of change, if done in a healthy way,
Yeah.
if felt in a healthy way.
Yeah. So I hear there's something quite important that you're sharing, is the allowing. The allowing piece is the piece that turns it into sort of this suppressed, uh, you know, shut down space where aliveness actually gets killed, to this place where it's allowed to be this big ball of fire, and but you're kind of directing it, you're in charge of it to some extent. By allowing it to be there, you're able to navigate and to maneuver your way around or through or whatever the case might be.
Mhm.
And I think that's such an important you know thing to land on, the allowing versus the avoiding. And I
Mhm.
think what you're sharing here today with us is really rooted in that,
Mhm.
allowing versus avoiding
Yeah.
as our conduit to really feeling and coming alive. And I
Mhm.
love that idea that all the full range of emotions are all welcome in the experience of aliveness, so
Yeah.
long as we allow them to be there.
Absolutely. You suppress one, if you suppress joy, you're going to suppress aliveness. If you suppress anger, you're going to be suppressing aliveness. It's all working the same way. The suppression
Mhm.
um, is in a way putting out the fire,
Yeah.
and anger is that.
What's important about allowing and
Mm.
having this experience of aliveness in its full capacity? What gets to happen?
What gets to happen, the word purpose, it comes up for me.
Mm.
Because to me, when you're allowing all of the emotion to flow through you, there's a reason for that. There is a specificness to your emotion, to your story, to why you're even having the emotion in the first place. It doesn't just happen. So you're responding to something that matters to you. And when you're responding to something that matters to you in your own way, you are in effect, I think, sending ripples out into the world. So we are not here for no reason. I believe we are all here for a purpose. And to me, to be fully alive is to embody your purpose.
Mm. Hallelujah.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
it
as
isn't
simple
that
as
what we're
that.
here for?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I was just contemplating this myself. I wrote an article around it, but it's this idea that we are looking outward always for our purpose, this elusive kind of purpose, this outward thing that's going to come to us, or it's going to rain on us, or it's going to be a lightning bolt and it'll come to us. It's this outside thing. And what you're saying, which is so brilliant, is that it's actually it's something that unfolds
Mhm.
naturally when we allow and let be, when we are in this state of flow and of ease and with ourselves. And it's just, that is the purpose, that is, and whatever comes from that, whatever flows from that,
Mhm.
is just this added bonus where we get to do whatever we want with that. um
Exactly.
but the purpose is really just the essence of aliveness, of just
It-
being in this beautiful body, this beautiful mind.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
right.
Yep. The more alive we are, the more that what flows from us will show us our purpose. And
Yes,
yet we've done it the opposite
I
way
know,
most
it's
of our
true.
lives. Like I'm half alive and I'm going to try to figure out my purpose from here.
Totally.
So yes.
We are hilarious. I think we're so funny. I think humankind is just, it's very,
Mhm.
sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, we spend so much time like interfering in the most natural process, which where, like, if we just stopped interfering,
Yeah.
it just, it would we're like the most, we are a self-regulating organism, like it just will come, whatever comes will come, it'll just happen. So I just find that so fascinating how
Yeah.
we, but that's, again, it's this thing here, right? It's this thing that gets in the way. And so our work is really just to get into that body, into the life force.
Right.
um and still, I mean, the mind and the brain, super important, right?
Phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Right, phenomenal.
To get the
But
steps, like once you're allowing and things are flowing out of you, the mind can go, oh, I'm going to go left and right, like, but it's not like the first place to start.
that's right.
It's like after you've gotten the energy flowing, and then it can help you navigate, where am I going to point this thing, where am I going to go this way, that way. And hopefully, and I think this is the human experience, right? Some of us, stay in survival mode longer than others.
Mhm.
Some people never move out of survival mode.
Mhm.
I think it's natural to, it's that animalistic root chakra. We have to survive. But when does it become, wait a second, I have everything I need right here. I have a roof over my head. I have what I need. Physical needs are met. Let's say that. Then if I'm still always in survival mode, right? I'm not going to ever move out of that into aliveness, into flow.
Yes.
And so it is that, depending on where we're starting from, like, I mean, for me, my awakening happened when I sat there finally and I was like, I have everything I need. I have a beautiful family around me. I have this and that, not physical things, but yes, physical things were met. And I still couldn't access aliveness and joy. And that's when I knew. I thought, something's not right here.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the beginning of my surrender to, well, I'm willing to find out what is.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is that noticing and being in realization that, wow, this is something internally happening inside of me that I'm not allowing, that word allowing,
Mm-hmm.
that it's me. I was so aware that it was me that was
Yeah.
blocking it all, but I didn't know how to change that. So
Yeah.
it's a journey, and it's for all of us, it happens differently, but it's possible for all of us, right?
I love that. Thank you, Laura. We're gonna have to wrap up,
Yeah.
which is
Thanks
so
for having me.
I know. I've loved having you here. Thank you for sharing. It's
Yeah.
such a joy for me to be able to share you out anytime
Mm.
because you have
Well,
such a beautiful light and such important, powerful things to share. And so I think why don't we just leave our conversation just one thing you'd like to leave our audience um, with respect to the
yeah.
experience of aliveness.
I don't know why this is coming up for me, but I saw this quote the other day, and it was a Martin Luther King Jr. quote. And it said, pray while you're still moving your feet.
Mm,
So I don't know why I want to share that, but it felt important to just say prayer and having this spiritual connection to something greater has been the most important piece of my journey while moving my feet. So we do both, right? We let it flow through us. We pray. We're not alone in this journey, I believe. And yet I'm not going to sit back and think that I don't have the ability to be a part of that change, whatever it is I'm here to do or allow in my own life. So I'm going to pray and move my feet. And that's what I'll leave you with today.
beautiful. Oh, thank you so much. What a gift you are. Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you,
you so
Alex.
much. And I will be seeing you in the big world, as I said.
Yes. See you out in the big world.
Yeah.
Mwah. Thank you for
Thank you
having
so
me.
much. Mwah.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.